So, thank you for, supporting my weirdness. Or whatever that was. Thank you ever so much. So good morning and welcome always. It's wonderful to be here on Sunday, and it's wonderful to see all of you. I really thought that we might have like 2.5 people here, not that there's a half a person in any, even capacity, but, I thought a lot of people were here Wednesday and might choose to just sit today out, and I'm glad that you didn't make that choice. So, happy Sunday after Thanksgiving. I'm really kind of glad all that's over. I feel like it was in the kitchen 2,000 hours between Wednesday and, sometime yesterday, and I finally just quit. I said, it will still be there. I know it will. I can't get it to go away, so it'll be there until I go back in there and deal with it, right? So a couple of weeks ago, we started looking at the 10 Demandments of Prosperity, which is a book written by Stuart Grayson. All of that is part of our look at 10 things that are awesome. That's why we have 10 up there on the wall. I know that you'll recall that we've looked at the 10 Commandments from a metaphysical viewpoint. And we've also looked at the 10 core concepts of science of mind. So we're going to continue today with 3 of the 10 Demandments of Prosperity. Next week we will be finishing the 10 Demandments of Prosperity. If you're glad, that's great. That's okay. So I just have been fascinated with this book. I have found out that the book, by the way, is out of print. I've managed to get my hands on about 3 copies, which I plan to hoard and never release. So that's how my mind works when I find something really good that's out of print. So the 5th Demandment, as identified by Stuart Grayson, is what he calls recognition. And recognition is about attuning in a complete way, in a full-fledged way, to the awareness that there is something perfect, that it's whole, that it's complete, that it is not only part of the universe, but that it's part of everything. And I know many of you have been around science of mind for a while. You've read some of Ernest Holmes' writing. You've taken classes like Foundations. You are familiar with our special form of prayer, what we refer to as spiritual mind treatment. And if that is the case, you will recall that recognition is the very first step of spiritual mind treatment, of our prayer practice that we hold here, that we practice here. It is about really recognizing the divine in everything. And that's a pretty powerful and transcending kind of experience for people. Most of us came from a place, from a teaching, from a belief system that said, we are over here. Way off in some goes way back in there, some of us, okay? Yeah, we try to do that without falling over. And that God, you can't do that right now, please. Or good, or whatever it is not a part of us. So we spend our lives trying to be better, trying to do better, trying to make up for some kind of mistake or black mark or incompleteness that was assigned to us by someone else. When these 2 things that are over here and over here begin to merge, and we really begin to hold to the truth and the belief that whatever is sacred issues from us, as well as all around us, transformative things happen. People who have a history of hurting themselves stop doing that because they wouldn't do that to God. People who have been incredibly hard on themselves emotionally change their tune again because they wouldn't participate in that kind of behavior towards something that they see and believe is sacred. So that's a pretty powerful thing when we begin to recognize that whatever is holy not only is everywhere, it lives and issues from within. Stuart Grayson also looks at recognition through a different light, and I think this is pretty important too. It has a big piece to do with this. He recognizes that there is a part of us, he calls it ego, But I don't think it's just ego in kind of a negative, egoic sense. I think it is a part of us that maybe touches very closely to our own innate ability to either grow or flounder. What he says is that there is a part of us that desires the recognition, the appreciation, accolades, acknowledgement from other people. And that in fact is incredibly important for us to grow, to be what we came here to be, to move toward our most significant level of potential. I find a lot of truth in that too. For instance, think about a baby or a pet, an animal that is born and that receives no attention, no nurturing, no support. It's almost more than we really want to contemplate. We call that failure to thrive. So if we find ourselves in a situation where we are not thriving, where we are not receiving some form of positive input, truly our spirit might be at risk here. Our ability to really stand true and strong and spiritually straight and tall, especially in the face of adversity. I'm going to talk about adversity in a few moments. So to me, there's a lot that's going on there when Grayson recognizes that the attention that we get from others, it may stroke our ego, and we might see that with a negative slant, but it's also incredibly important because it is really what positive praise from others does is it says, yes, you're on the right track. What you meant to convey is what I received. Okay? I got something from the gift you gave, whatever that gift was. And we know, too, that anytime someone feels appreciated, they will work harder, they will work longer, and they will walk away much more satisfied than if they do not. Have you ever had a job where you just really didn't feel appreciated? In fact, maybe they even made fun of you? Oh my! It's not an enjoyable experience, is it? Yeah, even those of us with some pretty attitudinal stuff, okay? Like the attitude made of titanium kind of stuff, don't survive long in that kind of a situation. Remember, too, that one of the things Grayson pointed out in the early weeks of this study that is so very important is how we think and feel and believe about ourselves. That attitude has a tremendous amount to do with our ability to pick ourselves up and to move on in life. Any kind of praise, any kind of recognition connotes respect. It indicates that we are needed and that we are valued. It accentuates contributions that we make, and it also boosts our self-esteem. Can we go to the next slide, please, Tony? I know many of you have seen this before. If you've been here at Open Door, we've talked about this before. This is Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. And in short, it comes from the work of an American psychologist, Abraham Maslow. He published a paper in 1943 that was a report on research that he had been doing with people. His research was different from that most psychological research focuses on. He didn't focus on people who were struggling with their thoughts or their feelings or their behaviors like many psychological researchers would study. He looked instead at people who are high achievers, off the chart. People who, even though they may have had setbacks and difficulties, rallied. He studied the life of Albert Einstein, the life of, Eleanor Roosevelt, And what he did was he recognized was that there's a process in here where once we get the very basic needs met, the physiological needs of food, shelter, water, safety, the safety needs of knowing that, we're not going to be injured, or we're not prey to wild animals or something. We're not living in a snake pit, so to speak, okay? Then we get into much more fundamental emotional drives that are really important. We need to feel like we are loved. We need to feel as if we belong and are contributing. We need to get that stuff going so that our esteem becomes more fully fleshed out. And as we have that esteem, what happens is all of this folds back into itself. So if we have to, if we find ourselves in a situation where somebody does disagree with us, or they're not praising us, they're condemning us or giving us a hard time, we can stand true in our own reality rather than allowing their word, their opinion, to shatter that internal belief that we hold about ourselves. One thing that Grayson points out here is that recognition is important from others, but it's also very important that we become a self-motivator, that we not allow the voice of others, the opinion of others, the ideas of others to completely opinionate our ideas of ourselves. Again, think about that. If you've had an experience where somebody kind of had a negative viewpoint of you, maybe they didn't know the whole story. Maybe they only saw it through a different colored lens. That faith in self, that's huge. That conviction that we know what we are about is absolutely important to our growth, to our spiritual development. Even Ernest Holmes recognizes this. In the chapter in the Science of Mind text on faith, he says, the one who has faith in his or her own abilities will always accomplish far more than the one who has no confidence in self. If you don't have confidence in yourself, my recipe for you, my recommendation and strong suggestion is that you learn and practice the 5 steps of spiritual mind treatment as it is taught in the Science of Mind community. That falls to hard fact because the first step in spiritual mind treatment is we recognize God is all there is. That whatever is whole and holy is everything, everywhere, everyone, all the time. The second step is that we are an expression of that wholeness. If you don't have a good opinion of yourself, spiritual mind treatment will change it. It will change it, and it will change your life. Grayson relates, too, that recognition and prosperity, for that matter, often come when we stop looking for it. Wealth, happiness, and appreciation often result from right action. Again, we see here, as we did last week, that he recognizes that prosperity is not so much about learning how to make money as it is living, embodying from spiritual principle, from that place of love, compassion, peace, and wholeness. When we do that, prosperity, healthy body, clear mind, loving, connected relationships, they just become a part of it. That's the definition of prosperity, you will call success, flourishing, and thriving. True wealth comes from living our passion. It results from being true to ourselves, knowing what we are good at, our skills and our talents, and pushing ourselves when necessary to use those talents, bringing them forward in an embodiment of joy and enthusiasm. Here, Grayson beseeches us to do the kind of work that makes full demands upon our own personal skills and aptitudes. It is often too easy for us to shy away from things that are challenging. that we feel are asking too much of us. Yet Grayson recognizes here that contained within trials are the seeds, the very seminal component of great personal spiritual growth. We must recognize, first and foremost, that we are spiritual energy encapsulated within a physical presence. If we try to stand still too long in a mode of life that is not challenging, we stymie the creative urge and we become stagnant. Wayne Dyer said, truly we begin to grow when we get ourselves out of our comfort zone. I live in mine, outside of mine all the time. In school they told me I was an extrovert. I've never heard more bullshit in my, Daisy, in my life. I haven't. I will be the last person on the earth to truly be designated as an extrovert. This is not about me, or what's comfortable, or what I want to do. Although I want to do this, or I wouldn't. I'm that opinionated. Really, it's pretty funny. That same teacher said the whole rest of the class was introverted, and by the end of the class, we were all just laughing at her. I'm like, yeah, good luck. I'm an extrovert, sure I am. The sixth demandment in Grayson's work is called synchrony. What the heck is synchrony? Well, it's being aligned, being in tune, being in sync or in vibration with the creative process of the universe. We're so in tune that opportunity just falls at our feet. Have you ever had that happen? Some days it's really simple. I had this happen this week. I was thinking, I need a rubber band. In my house, we don't have rubber bands. They're all locked up. I know that sounds strange, but Cappy eats them. Cappy eats them, and I don't want to have to pay for the surgical procedures necessary to relieve Cappy of the rubber band. So all the rubber bands have gone in hiding. Most of them have gone away. All of a sudden I turned around, and what did I find? A rubber band. And it was the perfect size, too.
Alchemy.
Alchemy, yes, the perfect alchemy. Oh, yes, it is. So, synchrony results from living positively in a state of consciousness that attracts good opportunities and then allows us to make use of them. Synchrony is a fulcrum for prosperity. Synchrony becomes self-actualization. It really does. Here, what happens is we are reminded that all of our thoughts, our ideas, our attention to detail, the spiritual practice that frustrates us so, in short, everything that issues from us constitutes the embryonic minutia that we are constantly planning in divine mind. Synchrony is about doing the behind-the-scenes work so that these seeds are of the highest quality, so that they will bear the tastiest fruit. Here we recognize that within every opportunity that we say yes to, there lies inherently an acceptance of our own personal good. When we are in synchronicity with the universe, opportunities just come knocking. But where do they come from? Often it's easy to look around and think our opportunities come from other people or from events outside of us. Perhaps our parents, our friends, our family, our bosses, and so on. But truthfully, opportunities come from our own personal consciousness, for they arise from those seeds that we are always planting in the fertile soil of creative mind. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, wrote a lot about synchronicity. I tried to find a video of this. Of course, I wanted one with the cat who kicked the domino, who resulted in, a whole big long thing unfolding, and resulted, of course, in, what? The cat got fed. I couldn't find one that I liked well enough to show here. Jung related that everything is interrelated. Everything depends upon everything else. He saw very aptly that all of life is a domino effect. When we begin to understand that, we realize that there's no such thing as chance, as getting a good break. What we call synchronicity is simply the relationship between inner consciousness and outer happenings. It's one way to experience better results. If we are looking for neater things to happen, we can practice what Grayson calls the law of as if. I bet some of you have been told to act as if. 31 years ago, I was told to act as if. Basically, to fake it until I made it. I thought that was living a lie. Then I realized the world believed the lie, okay? And after a while, so did I. How about that? We must convince ourselves that whatever we desire, whatever vision we hold true to our hearts, is already ours. Then we must play this role to the hilt on the center stage of life. Once I wanted a job with a certain agency. I would drive by that building where the organization was, and I would say to myself, that is mine, right there. Then I would go home, and I would think out all the processes, all the activities that I believed would be involved in having that job. When my house was empty, except for cats, I would practice those activities. I would pretend answering the phone and going, hi, blah, 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 this is Barbara, how can I help you? I got the job, you guys. I know I got it because I did it, okay? Because I believed it. And I also persevered. And that's our seventh and final demandment for today. Perseverance, simply, is having the conviction, the enthusiasm, the persistence, the courage to face any and all obstacle, refusing to give up. The father of New Thought, one of the fathers of New Thought anyway, Ralph Waldo Emerson, has been quoted as saying that nature provides the challenges for the development of the person. All development is the result of effort, and it is this effort that strengthens a person. As long as there is life, we will have challenges. Sometimes we will weather them easily, other times not so much. It could be said that some of us suffer from destination addiction, where we believe that somehow, some way, someday we will arrive. Our ship will come in. Then everything will be, and it will stay perfect. Do you think that's real? I don't. That's not how life is it? So we must come to understand that challenge is a part of life. It is said that Abraham Lincoln had to borrow money for the train fare to get to his own inauguration. Really? I mean, that's unreal. But I actually snoped that, and from what I could find out, that seems to be true. It's also said that his family was so uncontrolled in their spending that Abraham was always behind in his accounts, always in trouble with the people he owed money to. Knowing what I think about his personality, it sort of seems true. Georgia O'Keeffe almost died when she was 19 and contracted typhoid. And Minnie and Mickey, well, they are the brainchild, of course, of Walt Disney. What we often don't find out is that Disney was impoverished. He was working a job that he despised. He didn't want to be there. He made his money work for him, though, and he went and rented a dumpy little garage to use as an art studio. One night, late up in the night, he was there, half awake, pretty well out of fresh ideas. Nothing was coming to him. He watched mice creep into the garage. He began to draw them. We call them Minnie and Mickey today. Yeah. Inspiration comes from everywhere. Pretty amazing. Every successful creative person has known failure, heartbreak, or difficulty at some point or another, perhaps often. The difference in someone who continues onward, who picks themselves up and moves on, and one who gives up, is captured in a quote from the Greek philosopher Epictetus. Epictetus, I think it's a he, tells us it is not the things themselves that disturb men, but their judgment of these things. It is also said that the doors to heaven and hell are adjacent. We understand here in this teaching that these are not places where might be relegated to upon passage from the body, but that they are truly simply avenues of choice and barometers of thought. Will you go to heaven? What is your choice? In short, it requires inner stamina to not be defeated by our problems. Grayson recommends that if and when we cannot see our way through a situation, we simply walk away. That might sound strong. It might even sound like running away. But he encourages us to remove ourselves from the immediacy of the situation. I believe this is a very powerful way to work with ourselves. When I was a little girl, my mother, watching me get frustrated with something, took away the pencil and said to me, just stop for a minute. Take a break. Go do something fun. The poor Chihuahua, I had made saddles and things that looked like bridles and things that looked like jumps outside. And so my fun was catching the Chihuahua, harnessing her up, and running her over the jumps. Poor dog. And she loved me. You know, that's really incredible, right? That's spiritual principle in action. But when I came back to my project, I don't even know what it was now. I was renewed. Be ye renewed through the transforming of your own mind. Sometimes it happens when we walk away from something. Something internal would ease up. This would provide the space that I needed for new ideas, for new breath, new possibilities to surface. Then the strength and courage to return to the situation and see my way through would come more easily. Every one of us have at our disposal, the wisdom that is contained within the all-knowing mind. Perseverance is a spiritual force that propels us on to a new plateau of experience. It helps us tap that deeper inner wisdom. It helps us move past something that looks and smells like it could be defeat. So we're going to close this morning with a very simple statement. I'm going to ask Carol to come and pass these out. This is a little affirmation that comes from Stuart Grayson. I picked something that's really short and sweet. You can take more than one copy if you'd like. We have plenty. Because what I like to do with things like this is memorize them. Take them into my consciousness. If there are words that bother you or something you could do that would make this feel more powerful, more complete for you, you can always do that. And then memorize it. Say it when you're in the shower. Say it when you're driving your vehicle. Say it when you're, maybe not brushing your teeth, but you get the message. Say it when you're not doing anything else. In Science of Mind, we believe that affirming like that is what was truly meant in that statement from the Bible where it says, where we are counseled to pray ceaselessly. We focus on something powerful. We focus on something that takes us to the next level, to the next place in building ourselves up, in knowing that we are powerful, creative, spiritual beings, alive, well, and here to do great work on this planet. So let's close and recite this together, if you will. I recognize that I am a pure channel through which ideas of life, love, beauty, balance, and order flow, expressing and manifesting themselves with ease. I am therefore a representative of the power and presence of good. This is mind in action. Its results are beautiful, and so it is. And so we just move into that and allow that to become our truth, our way, and a light in our world. I love you.